Hello everyone and welcome to our live website review episode 11. Today we'll be covering about 6 websites and these were submitted by Patricia, Jeremy, Elevation Allah, Miguel, Mark and Curtis. So I'm really excited to get started with the show and I hope you are too. And also before we get started, if you are new to web design and WordPress, I have a free course which you can sign up immediately by going to the website, which I'll link to in the comments box below. So if you enroll in that course, it's absolutely free, 100% free. You can get started and learn WordPress. And also, today's episode is made possible by divicake.com. Check out their huge selection of Divi themes, layouts, and plugins. All right, so this was a bit of a rough morning. Normally, I set everything up the night before, but for some reason, I've been having problems connecting live. So that's why, it started a bit late. So apologies with that. Sometimes these things happen with the live shows. Okay, so to those of you in advance, I'd like to say thank you for submitting your websites today. So if you need to comment on any of these websites I'm reviewing, please do so by leaving your comments in the comments box. And also, I would appreciate it if you share this live stream as well so more people can watch it. Okay, so let's get started and let's talk about our first video. And also, by the way, we have Agante, Quartz Training. We also have Chris saying greetings from Congo. Oh, wow, that's a big surprise. Congo. Awesome. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Okay, so let's get started. And we're going to start off with our first website here, which was submitted by Patricia. Okay, so right, let's switch over here. Right, so this is the first website. And at first glance, this is brilliant. I really like this. It gives us pretty much what this website is about in the image there. And then it also says Apple Computer Specialists, sales of refurbished and new. We buy back your devices, repairs and upgrades. That's fantastic. That's a very good value proposition. So basically we know what this company does. We know exactly what they do. And also the image also supports that. And this is great. Okay. And then here on the call to actions, and this is also brilliant. So if you want to buy a Mac, you can come over here, buy your Mac, sell your Mac, repairs and upgrades. So there's 3 options to choose from, and I think this is fantastic. Right, now, before I move on to the next section, I want to talk about here, the logo. Right now, as I'm seeing it, it's pixelated, and to be honest, I think this logo will be better if it was in the top left over here, okay? Not where it is right now. So this area, just leave it for the value proposition. It's fine. And this logo needs to be over here. And make sure when you work on your logo, it doesn't have that border because that border makes it look pixelated. So you may want to go in and revise how you saved that logo. Right, before I continue, I'd like to say if you can hear me loud and clear, please do let me know in the comments box. I'm using a different mic today, so hopefully this is coming through okay. Okay, so if you can hear me, please just let me know in the comments box by just saying yes or sound is okay. Welcome, Russell. And Russell says loud and proud. Awesome, awesome. Great. Okay, so let's continue here. Okay. So here on this website, as I mentioned, the logo needs to be redesigned, or not redesigned, but maybe rework on it so it doesn't have this border, and the border there is pixelated. And also, although this value proposition is good, it's brilliant, please do not use caps, okay? Because caps just screams that you're shouting, and yeah, just use normal text when you do your value proposition. So that's something that I would change here. Over here on the buttons, this is a design issue. This border here, I think you could do without the border, to be honest. Just have the buttons as they are without the border, because it's just making this solid black line around the buttons, and it doesn't really look nice. So just get rid of these borders unless there's a real reason why you have to have those borders. Okay, so moving down here, I really like what you did here with these icons with the rounded corners. I think that's brilliant. But then here we have a problem. So you are not using a width which pretty much has all the content in a specific width, and now this has resulted in this content being stretched all the way to the end of the website. So this is something that you may want to really pay attention to, because the width, the content width is very, very important, because sometimes when you use large screens, as I'm doing now, you can see everything stretched all the way to the end. And presentation wise, this doesn't look good. So make sure you adjust that. If not, what you may want to do is to use percentages on your content width. So it readjusts with different size monitors. So that's very, very important, because right now, presentation wise, it doesn't look good. And I know this is because I am using my large monitor. So this perhaps looks better on a smaller monitor, but you just have to design for all monitors. That's the good way forward. Okay. And again, if we take a look at all these sections here, yes, we have a big problem there. Okay, so all the sections that follow all have that problem, except the testimonials. You see on the testimonials here, this looks fine. Okay, and this image that we have here, I think this is a good use of the image, but what I would do in this case is make this image dark as you did here on the top, and then put all your content on the top. That provides a very good contrast, because right now everything is bright and you had to put this border here, and that doesn't really look presentable with this. So just make this image a bit darker and then have these icons at the top with your text. That would look definitely much better. Okay, and over here on the footer needs a bit of work here. You need to add more content here. So right now you have the support. You may need to add more content there just to fill up that footer space. If you don't have enough space on the footer or enough things to add on the footer, then you can exclude it for a while until you have enough content to go on there, because right now it looks like the website is unfinished. So please do go ahead and update that footer. Right, and also here where we have Apple Bay Limited, I think there is more that could be added here. Now these social media follow, these could be added here on the footer, and maybe you could get rid of this section, this gray section here. Okay. And as I look at this now, on the bottom here we have services, our company, certified, blah, blah, blah. This could be also added here just to add more space. So already, if you move this, this navigation here on the bottom over here, and then move the follow over here, now you have 3 columns, and that has populated your footer. So that's what you may need to do, and this is a quick fix. Right. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Okay, now over here on the inside pages, I think you could add more here, because there's no images, and because this is a company that does the repairs and it does all this tech stuff, I think this could work very well with a lot of images, because right now it's just a plain page. So make this page a bit more exciting and add more pictures of the products that you work with. Okay. Okay. Now moving on here, this is a good use of this mega menu. I think this is really cool. So I'll just go here to laptops and let's take a look. Okay, so this is a shop. Now on this page, we are missing the logo. So the logo needs to be there on the website just to add consistency throughout your inside pages there. Okay, so I'm going to click here on one of these products and take a look at how you've laid it out. Okay, so we have the product here. Okay, in terms of layout, I think this is good. And also the description here, I think that's fine. What I may want to do here is, you see these titles that you have here on these products. I think these are a bit too big, and then the price is very, very small. So what you want to do here is to just make the price slightly bigger so we can see it, and even bold, and then make these titles of these products slightly smaller. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a quick look and see if we have any comments. Okay, Agante says loud but a little sharp. Okay, let me just do a quick adjustment here. Okay, so hopefully that should be better. Oh, wow, we have Douglas from Scotland. Good to see you, Douglas. Awesome. Right, we also have Decide Hosting from India. We have Rito. Oh, good to see you. Good to see you, Rito. Ty saying, oh, wow, you came out loud. All good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Right, okay, so let's continue here. Right, so as I was saying here on the product descriptions, these need to be adjusted a little bit because they're slightly too big. Now here on the images as well, every time you sell products on your website, you need to invest in taking good pictures, because good pictures are very, very important. So I would take more pictures, or maybe retake some of these images and just upload high-res images on there. That just makes it more appealing for people to want to buy your products. Okay, so moving on, let's try a different page here. So we've gone to, let's go to services. What happened? Oh, okay. Right, hard drive and upgrades. Now over here, I mean, as a tech, as someone who has a tech background, I can tell that this is a hard drive. But what you may want to do is maybe show the actual hard drives rather than a zoomed in a picture of that. So that's what I would do here, okay? But otherwise, the idea is actually very good to have a product showing there on the top. I think that's really cool. Okay, so moving down here. Okay, I like these large buttons here. Hopefully, these are the colors from your color palette and you are carrying these colors through your website. But these are really nice, okay? Now, moving down here, I like what you've done here. And again, I can see here that the padding is way too close to the edge. I think this is because you designed this on a smaller screen. Okay, and the same applies here as well. But other than that, the idea is good. What I would maybe do here is, oh yeah, you see now this image that we have here. So if you could take a part of this image, and that could be the image that you want to use here on the top, because it shows all the hard drives, okay? So the footer, we spoke about that already. Okay, let's try a different page here. Let's go to the blog page. Okay, so with the blog page, I would really spice this up a little bit and make it more exciting by maybe even making this page a full width page without this sidebar, and highlight these blogs. Now over here on the top, you can see that one is missing an image. Make sure you have images on all your blogs. And let's see what happens if I go into one of these. Okay, I think that looks nice. That's fine. Now with the text here, I would be consistent with the text, because I can see the text you're using on your blog is slightly smaller as compared to your body text. So make sure you're using the right font size throughout the whole website for your body text. Okay, so let's go to our contact us. Okay, I really like this. I think this is really good, but we can't read this text. I don't know if you can see it on the live on this video, but there's text here which says contact 02. I don't know what that's about, but I would get rid of that if it's not related to this. Now, what I also see on this page is you are using a pre-made layout. I think I may not be right in this, but you're using a pre-made layout, and as you can see, the font here has completely changed. So this looks like it's a completely different website. So when you use pre-made layouts, make sure that you go in and customize all the fonts, customize all the colors, and just make it seamless throughout your website. Because if you use it as it is, it's going to look different in terms of in relation to all the other parts of your website. So that's what you need to do when you use pre-made layouts. In fact, I have a long video that I did on how to create a website where I actually use pre-made layouts and show you how to customize those to suit your website. Right, okay, so let's continue here. Let's go to the reviews page. I don't think that's working. Strange. Okay, so that reviews. If you have pages which don't have content on them, it's always advisable not to add these pages onto your website. In fact, I'm guilty of doing that as well, but that's just a good rule of thumb. Okay, so pretty much that's all I have for this website. So Patricia, thank you very much for submitting your website. Hope you make those few changes and your website will look even better. But overall, I really like the way you approach this. Your value proposition was fantastic, and also your call to actions. It's very clear where people can go to, so I think that's very good. But just remove those caps on the value proposition, and also use your color palette consistently throughout, because you do have a good color palette there. So just use that throughout your whole website consistently. And also your body font, make sure that it's the same size throughout the whole website. And that page, the pre-made layout page, make sure that you go in and customize it to have the same settings as your other pages. Okay, so let's take a look here at the comments and see if we have any comments. Right, Russell here says, I'll take inspiration from Apple as they are dealing with a premium product. The design should reflect, I agree, not enough images. Yes, absolutely. And this is something that we touched on, I think, last week when it comes to designing your websites. Taking inspiration from other websites is very, very important. So don't just go in and start designing the website. Even when I studied graphic design, before we start a project, we would spend like even a couple of hours just doing research online to see what other companies are doing, just to gather inspiration before you actually start designing your project. So that's something that I also recommend to everyone out there. Before you design your websites, take some inspiration, have a list of websites that you take a look at. Now, when I say inspiration, I don't mean go in and copy those designs. It's just like ideas of how you can put together your own website. So that's a very good point there, Russell. There's a comment here from, I can't pronounce this. I'll just give it a try. Zaras, I think. Saying how can one submit website to see. Okay, if you want to submit your website, if you're on YouTube right now, under the comments, in the comments box, the first line, I think, gives you the URL where you can submit your website for review. And for those of you as well out there who want to submit your websites for review, please do so. I will review these in the order that they were submitted. And also, I also want to mention that I noticed that there are people who are double submitting. So please, that will just cause a lot of confusion. So please don't double submit. If you submitted and your website hasn't been reviewed yet, it just means that it's in the queue, because I do these website reviews every Wednesday and every Saturday, and I try to do about 5 or 6 each episode. So please do be patient and don't repost them, because it just causes a lot of confusion, and it also takes away from those that are, that have submitted and need to submit as well. Okay, Michael from the UK said joined a bit too late. No problem, Michael. We've just reviewed the first website, which was submitted by Patricia. Okay, so moving on. Let's take a look at the second website here, and this one was submitted by Jeremy. Right, so Jeremy. Okay, so this is the website. So at first glance, I think this is really nice. I like the use of contrast. You've made the color of that image in the background dark and then made the text lighter. So that means we can read this, nicely. So I think that's really good. Now, when I take a look at this text here, this value proposition here is taking most of the space on the screen. You can actually go in Divi and adjust the width of that part which has that content. So I would reduce that to maybe even about 60% and then just reduce it slightly so that everything is bound onto the left side of this main hero image. Okay, because right now it's just going way too wide. But the idea is very, very good though. And what I would also do here is to add a gradient on the left there, okay, just to make this text stand out a bit more. Okay, I've done it also an example of how to use gradients on there. So take a look at, in fact, I may link these tutorials in the comments box so you can go ahead and take a look at those. So that's something that you may want to do, but otherwise I think this is great. Now, unfortunately, I can't read, I'm not sure what this language is, but it looks like French. I may be wrong, but it looks like French. But anyways, so I can't really say much about the value proposition here. So I'm going to take a look at this website based on the design. Okay, now taking a look at this, these two colors here, this gray and this blue, I don't think they blend in very well together. In fact, what I would do here is I would actually use maybe even black here, okay? And fade it into this blue right here, okay? So I would actually use black. I think that would stand out even better, and that will also make these icons look great. Now, one thing that you also want to do here is to add some padding here on the top, because all these icons here are way too close to the line, which doesn't really work. Now, moving on, your content area, again, I think just like the previous website, we are also having an issue here with the content area. Right now, it's way too wide, okay? So everything is going way too wide. It's close to the edge. That's a bit too much. And again, I can see that this is probably because this was designed on a smaller screen, maybe on a laptop. But it's very, very important to have your rows have a specific size throughout the whole website, okay? The rule of thumb is I would use maybe 1220 or 1280 as your width, your content width. And if it's a percentage, I would use about 70%, sometimes maybe even 60%. Okay, so it's very, very important that everything is in that content width throughout your whole website. Okay, so moving on. In fact, before I do that, I just want to take a quick look here and see. Agante, Monique. Oh, Monique, welcome. Says it's French. Oh, so I got that right. Right. Logos need transparent background. They look odd. Yes, I also agree with that. With Russell's comment there, the logos definitely need a transparent background. Right. So let's go back over here and. Yes, definitely. Okay, so moving on, I think I spoke about this. Okay, so this area here, where you have this white, it's a bit too sharp. It's a bit too much, on this page. We've drawn all the attention now to this area. Okay, now I don't know if that's my design, but what I would do here is to get rid of this white altogether and then just make this text inside here, change it from gray to to white so that it's easier to read here, because I think this actually complements this this device here. I'm not sure if that's right, but that's what I'll assume, but don't add this background white here. Okay, so moving on. I think these icons are fine, and I like the animation that you've done on there. I think that's really cool. Now, we have these section dividers. Now, I've mentioned this before. I think there was a website as well, so a while ago, which had section dividers, but there was quite a lot of designs of these section dividers. Now, you have to be careful, you know, with these section dividers on how you use these, because if you use that wavy one, right, it signifies maybe water. So in this case, I wouldn't use this section divider right here because it looks like it's a wave. It's to do with water. So I would use maybe this one right here on the bottom. But as you can see now, the fact that we've used two different types doesn't really work. Choose one section divider and just stick with that throughout your whole website. Don't use different types. So you see, like this one right here, I think this one is fine. Okay. So if you use that throughout your whole website, I think that will be even better. Okay. And moving on here, I think the use of color is getting a bit too much. I would have some of these sections with white or slightly gray background with normal content, and over here things are not aligned, so this definitely needs to be redone. Okay. And also for this I would use a blurb, definitely, because this here is not centered. The title, the headings here are not centered as well, so that's something that I would fix as soon as possible. Okay. And okay, I spoke about that. Now, this image that we have here in the background, I think is the same one that we have on the main header area. So this is something that I would definitely change as well, because you don't want to be repeating these same images, because it looks like you're running out of images. Okay. So have this as a solid background, and these testimonials here, if you have a solid background, I would actually get rid of these testimonial backgrounds and just have the text in a white color or very light color so we can read it. And on the top here, we don't need these little items here, okay, because we have an image of the person that's doing the testimonial. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, I think this section is okay. It's a slider, but I would make sure things are aligned, because right now things are not aligned. So make sure you align things there. Yes, definitely you want to align things. And even this image here, I would make it slightly bigger. Okay. And moving on, I can see here you've changed the section divider again one more time. That's something that you want to avoid. Use the same style on your section dividers throughout your website. Okay, the footer here is okay, but I think your colors here, I'm not sure if you're using this color palette correctly throughout your website. I think these are random colors which you're choosing, which you think work. So I would go in and make sure that you're using colors, and use colors that have, you know, good contrast. So for example, these headings, I would use a light gray for these rather than this color right here. And the gradient that you've done here on the bottom here is what I meant on the top. So if you have that gradient just coming slightly in, that would look good on this section. Okay, and the logo, by the way, I think your logo is nice. I really like it. It's brilliant. Right, so moving on, let's take a look here. Again, I think these pages, you need to balance things a little bit. So maybe here, because you have this space in the middle here, maybe have one more blurb which has content, so that this part here balances. And again, on the top, things are way too close to the edge, and I would actually have an image here. It's just too much text. And also, as I mentioned, your content area is just way too wide. I would reduce that and throughout your whole website. Okay, so moving on here. So you see, sometimes we have this section divider, and then sometimes we have straight lines. That's something that I would fix. And over here, your image that you have in the background is way too bright. It's taken away from these icons here. Now, when it comes to having consistency and repetition on your website, if you're going to use these type of icons and this type of artwork, make sure that this continues throughout your whole website. Don't just use it once and then not use it, throughout the site. So this is the first time I'm seeing this, and hopefully this continues, throughout the other pages. But if not, this is something that you may want to address. And then moving here, the colors, as I mentioned, I think they are all over the place. Now we see this bright blue, and also I mentioned this already. The content width is just way too much, and I really like this actually. This timeline thing, I think that's fantastic. Now I'm not sure if okay, I can't even tell. Okay, anyway, I think this is really nice. And you see these colors that you're using here. I'm not sure if these colors are from the color palette, because now there's quite a lot of colors going on this website. Okay, so moving on. Now you've changed the section divider again here on the bottom. So this is something that I may want to fix. And also on the icons here, here you're using these icons as they are, and then on the top here, you're using them in this rounded circle. So this is something that I may want to take a look at as well, because you be sure that you use one style of icons throughout your whole website. And over here, I think I've mentioned this enough. This just needs to be maybe add 3 columns and have this first one here in a column, because right now the way they are in the single column doesn't really work, because the text is going all the way to the end. So if you have 3 columns, you can have these in those columns. Okay, so let's take a look here at a few more pages. Again, I think this is the same thing. Now your icons have changed, and this one here is way too big. So I think here, Jeremy, we are losing a lot of consistency here with your designs, because you're introducing a lot of things into your website, so it's taking away the consistency. Okay, so again here on this page, you're using these icons. Now these icons are now used on a light background, so they're not really standing out. So this is something that I would fix as well. Make sure that that image there is dark, and that image also needs to relate to what content is on your page. Remember, design is not a decoration. Design has to have a purpose. Design has to have the reason why you're using those specific icons, or you're using that particular image. So don't put things on the page just to decorate it, okay? So making your website simpler actually makes it even more sophisticated and more beautiful and easier to read. Because remember, you're designing your websites for people to see and consume whatever is on that page. So making it easy to find, making it easy to navigate is very, very important. And this is why you need to simplify your designs, simplify your websites. Again, here you see we have this large text here with a drop shadow. I don't think that's really necessary. And again, I spoke about these icons. And over here, the text is way too small. You may want to increase the size of this text. And right, I spoke about this already. And again, here I can see there's a different section divider type. Now these are, if I'm correct, this is the 4th divider type that you're using, so just keep those to a minimal. Okay, this page, I really like what you've done here on the top with that blur in the background. Now again, I would just, in fact, this could work. Right, this could work, but I think this would be even better if this was in a content width, which makes these slightly smaller. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Okay, I think I've mentioned this already. The content here is way too close to the edges. Same with the FAQ. I would actually maybe have an image there on the top just to have the consistency of what you have here on the blog. Just having an image here on the top throughout your website as the page titles, I think that'll be good. Okay, so on the contact page here, I think we're missing a form actually. So instead of having these three big blocks, I would actually change this because this is not doing anything. I think this is supposed to be chat. It doesn't work. So I would actually get rid of this chat, have a form, and then have the address and phone number on sharing a 50-50 column. Okay? Right, so this is all I have for this website. So there's a few things there, Jeremy, that you need to pay attention to. Section dividers, you need to make sure that you use one style and one style throughout your whole website. Secondly, the colors that you're using on your website, they need to be consistent. They need to be from a color palette, and also use the Divi color manager, because it helps you choose colors that work well together as well throughout your design, based on your initial color palette. Okay, and also your body text font, that needs to be also pretty much consistent throughout the whole website. From what I noticed, the text was a bit too small. Okay, so let's take a look here and see if we have any comments. Rita says the services offered are indicated with large symbols with an image as a background and look a little chaotic. No, I agree, and this is also very important to all you designers out there. It's very, very important not to cause a lot of confusion with the elements that you put on your website. So the image, it has to be very subtle, and then your content also needs to be easier to read on the actual page. So don't let these two clash, because it just brings a lot of confusion to the whole page. Okay? Decide Hosting says everything is here and there. Plan a website layout. I would definitely agree with that. I know it's a bit harsh, but definitely you want to plan these pages first before you actually, go ahead and start putting all the content. And something that I may want to do as well is I'm thinking of actually creating some wireframes, which are pretty much like areas where you can put like your content. So it's pretty much like these pre-made layouts, but as wireframes where you can just choose a section. So let's say if it's a call to action, there'll be different call to actions, but they will have like the layout in place already. So this is something which I may go into if maybe a lot of people are interested in that. So what you would have to do is pretty much choose whatever layout for whatever section that you need, and then just replace the text, the colors, and also the images, because these will all be in black and white. So I don't know. We'll see if people like that. Monique says content is important, and I feel that time needs to be spent on the layout before putting the page. Time on wireframing pages is just as important. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Now, what has happened recently, and I'm guilty to this as well, is with these page builders, we have, I'm speaking for myself here, we have gone a bit lazy now, and we are skipping steps. Now, before these page builders, or before the page builders got a bit more sophisticated, we would actually design websites in 3 steps. So the first stage was the research. The second stage was the planning of the website, so which pages link to what page. So we have like a page like overview. And then the third stage will be the wireframe part. Okay, so we used to create these wireframes using Photoshop, right? And then the fourth stage now will be the development. So these were the stages. But now, even sometimes I just go into straight designing. Okay, and I'm sure quite a lot of people are doing this, but definitely, as Monique said, this step is very, very important. The wireframe is very important. You need to have a look at how the page looks. So if you have a prototyping software or maybe even Photoshop, design the page in Photoshop first, see how it looks, and then you can start designing it in your page builder. Decide Hosting said something like a UI pack. Yes, absolutely. Something like a UI pack. It will be in black and white. So when you start using it, you can just go in and just start adding your colors on it, and also your images where they need to go. But pretty much all these sections will be pre-designed for you, ready to go. Reese says good morning. Good morning to you, Reese. Thank you very much for joining. Let's take a look here. Did I miss anything? Yes, let's take a look here. Decide Hosting says, I would recommend that you post the site which you're going to review for everyone to take a look. Yes, those websites are in the description, in the video description. So everything is there. Right, awesome. So let's carry on. Let's carry on. Russell says with a load of themes available, it encourages design on the go without the understanding of the site development and design. Absolutely, I agree with you 100% there, Russell. I totally agree. Agante says, I feel that this is the strength of Divi, that I can start from scratch. Yes, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Right, so let's move on to the next website here, and this one was submitted by Elevation Allah. Okay, there we go. So, right, so this is the website that was submitted by Elevation. First of all, right, on the value proposition here, I know it says visit Black Houston, travel elevated. It doesn't really say much. I have an idea here of okay, visit Black Houston, but I would even go even further and maybe give a reason why. Okay, I should visit Black Houston. Okay, so I would expand on that value proposition right there. Maybe in the description where you have the hashtag right there. So I would maybe even go ahead and say visit Black Houston for the best blah 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 blah. Right? So that may entice me to want to click on the call to action. And right now it's saying contact us. I mean, I think this is way too early in the process for me to want to contact, because there isn't enough information for me to want to click on contact. Okay, so this is something that I think could be done here. And if this image here is the image of Black Houston, I think this is fantastic, because this gives context to what you have here on this area, which is great. Okay, so moving on, I also like the use of parallax there. I think this is great. Taste of Houston tours. Now, on this video, I can see that this is straight from YouTube. So what I would do in this case is I would actually use, what's it called? I've just gone blank. image overlay, right? So I would use an image overlay here with a picture of maybe a nice dish. Okay, so that would make this look even better. Okay, and moving on here, when I take a look at these icons, I think this is the same icon. I would use different icons here, to be honest, because it's just the same icon, and the icon doesn't give any context to what this is. Okay, so I would go in and revise those icons and just make sure that the icon, like for example, this events here, I could have maybe, I could even have an events calendar in there. Okay, as well as the rest. Now this button here, I think it's slightly too big. I would make this a bit smaller. Or maybe even have it solid, because what is happening here, I can see that that button is used throughout this page, because over here it's there, but the border is very close to the color that we have here on this image. So that's something that I may want to fix there. Now moving on, this testimonial part here, I think this is okay. But just as a quick thing, I would actually center this, okay? Because it's centered top, I would center it so that this is slightly lower, so it's in line with this image, okay? Now over here on this section is this title here is way too close to the edge of the section. You want to give this breathing space, just like what you've done here on the bottom, okay? So what you've done here on the bottom, you need to do the same on the top. This just balances your design. It's very, very important that you do that, okay? And the icons here again, I would change these icons and customize these icons to what it relates here on this page. Okay, now this image here on the bottom, I think this is great, but you want to maybe make it gray so that this text can really stand out, because right now it's not dark enough for us to be able to read, this content here. So there isn't enough contrast. Okay, so on the bottom here, I would maybe even have a footer. Okay, so let's move on to events. Okay, now this image is way too close to the top, so I would give it some padding there. Okay, so this events page is, nice and simple. So I think that works. Let's go to activities. Okay, I think this is great. I mean, I like the use of this image here on the activities. I think that's really cool. Okay, so these are paid activities. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. So now this goes to Themify. That's strange. Exotic car. What are these? Amazing adventures ahead, paid activities. So wine tour. If I say buy now. Okay. So this one is brilliant. I like the use of this image right here on this page. I think that's great. But then again, over here, the text, the way the text is laid out here doesn't really work. So you want to make sure that this is populated with more content so that the page is balanced. The images here, I like the use of, the way you've put these images here. I think this is great. The only thing I would say is these images are pixelated. They're not high-res images. And also, I would continue these. So instead of breaking this section here, I would have these images follow on from the top here, okay? So rather than break this right here, I would have this section here of these images on the top there, and then have this text here mirror what we have on the bottom here. So have like items together. This is also a design principle. So have like items together. So this item here, this information here should be on the same sort of section with this one here. And then this content here, these images need to be maybe under that. So we have a large section here of of the gallery. Okay, so let's see what else is here. I think the FAQ here, the use of this image in the background, I think this is too much. I would just have this whole section of the FAQs in a dark gray and then have the FAQs there. Okay, so it looks like this request here is on all the pages. Okay, so that's what I would do on this page. But if you had all your pages consistently with this large image and the page title, I think that would be even better. Okay, so let's come back. Let's go to nightlife. Let's see if that's the same trend. Okay, so that's really cool. But this image here is way too big now. So if I come back here on activities. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. But I would reduce the size. It's a bit too much. It's filling up most of my screen. So I would maybe bring it up to about there. Okay, so I think the content is fine. Let's go to the food. Okay, so I can see the trend here. What you've done here on these page titles, I think that's good. Okay, so I think the rest is fine. Let's go to the Ethiopian food. Let's take a look at this page. Okay, so I think that's fine. No, I think this is good. And then, okay, so I just want to go back on the events because there's a page which, no, not the events. There's a page which had, okay, this is the page, the activities. So some of these, when I click on buy now, it looks like it's not taking me anywhere where I can buy the actual products. Okay, so I'm just looking at these pages randomly now. Now, these dance classes, as you can see, this image right here is stretched. That's something that needs to be fixed. Over here, these images are pixelated. So you want to make sure that you use high-res images here because that gives a good impression of your services or what you're trying to promote. Because right now, I don't think this really works. Okay. So let's go back and choose and click on maybe one or two more. Marketplace. Again here, I would show more of the marketplace rather than the actual image. And the layout here has changed. Okay, so what I would actually do here is try and create page templates for this. So like, for example, all these activities would have like the same sort of like page template, but different content. You see, like this one here has changed as well. So elevation. So what I would do here, I mean, your website, to be honest, has great content. And the way you've designed it so far, I think is good, but you can actually make it even better by having page templates. So for your activities, have page templates, but obviously with different content on them. That just ensures that you have consistency throughout your whole website. Secondly, your images are pixelated, okay? Use high-res images, especially, when you're trying to promote all these different things on your website, okay? That is very, very important. And also, your value proposition needs to be more direct. It needs to explain more about why I should visit Black Houston, okay? and just make it more exciting. On your videos, I would add even more videos to this to make it even more exciting. So for the dancing and for the activities and all of that, I would just have videos on those pages. But of course, these videos don't need to be like a crazy full-on production. This could be just videos without even sound, okay? So that people can see or have an idea of the atmosphere before they actually, sign up or book for any of these events. So that is very, very important. So the use of video is important for your type of project here. Okay, so let me take a look here and see if there's any questions or comments. Oh, Elevation is in. Elevation says, I see you're checking my page. And also the comment here is, I'm still working on that. Buy now buttons, correct? Okay, I'll go over the images. You're right, they need to be crisp. Yes. Okay, I'll make sure the pages are more consistent. Yes, absolutely. So Elevation here says, so maybe have videos on the desktop version and the mobile version can have static images. Absolutely. So, that is a very good way to approach this, because even like for, is it Houston? Yes. Have some clips, where you're just giving like an overview of the place, maybe the market, maybe the dancing, and all those different aspects of why people should visit that in video format. So yes, you're absolutely right. So on the desktop version, have those videos, and then on the mobile versions, just have static images. But I do want to emphasize that they need to be high res. It's very, very important, because this is what will just sell, your project. Okay, so just invest in time to do that, and that will look great. But yes, you are right. I could see that there are some pages which were incomplete, which were pointing somewhere else. So you need to address those. Elevation says, I think there's a comment here about the images. 300 DPI is for print. Yes, absolutely. So anything on screens, whether it's mobiles, whether it's desktop, the DPI is 72, okay, to 96. But for print, this is where it needs to be about 300 and sometimes slightly above. So they don't need to be 300, because they'll all be scaled down to 72 anyways. So 72 is the actual DPI that you need to use. And also it's about having the images in high res. So when you use your camera, like some of these like basic professional cameras, the image size sometimes is like 5,000 by 300 pixels. Now that's way too much. So what you want to do is to resize that image, but also have it crisp, in terms of how it looks. In fact, you know what? I have a Photoshop course. If you are interested in learning how to optimize your images for your websites, I have a Photoshop course which has a great discount. I will also include that in the comments box below, but you can go to DV University and that course is there. So pretty much it teaches you how to stylize your images, how to color correct them, how to crop them, and also how to export these images for web. Okay. Yes, you can resize in Photoshop. Excellent. All right, so now it's time to move on to the next website, and the next website here is submitted by Miguel. Right, so this is the website. So first of all, the colors are used here. I think they're a bit too bright. I mean, we will see how it looks throughout the whole design, but I think the colors here, they're a bit too much. They're too bright for the actual project. Again, this is something that you may want to do here before you actually choose a color palette for your website. Take a look at these some of these websites that are similar to your niche, and then see what colors they are using, because color is very important on these type of projects. However, I want to say that the use of this font here, I think that is brilliant, but it needs to be way bigger, you know, a great addition to your family. That needs to be nice and big. Now, having said that, I also don't see a good value proposition here. I can't tell what this website is about. I can see there's dogs here, so I can only assume it's to do with dogs, but I really now have to find more information and read a bit more for me to see what this website actually does. So it's very, very important, you know, in the first few seconds for someone to have an idea of what your website does. So I would actually use this font here as your title because it's playful, but also add a description of what it is your website does, because right now we can't tell. I have to now go in and start reading. And this is where now a lot of people would drop out. So even though your website looks nice, the way layout and everything, people will drop out because they're just, I mean, it's just too much to look for the content. And if I take a look here as well, I think this font here needs to be slightly bigger because we can't really read this. And the use of drop shadows and the borders here, I don't think that is necessary, to be honest. I would just use these images as they are. Now, if I look again here on this text that you've added here, for the English language, it's very difficult for people now to read from the top going down. Okay, we're not used to that. I think Chinese, they read from top going down, I think. So in English, you want to keep things simple. I know you're trying to be creative here, but by adding this text, like right now, I can't even read this. I know it's characteristics, but you see how I really have to go in and try to work out what that means. I mean, that's just a bit too much. And also, now this text that you have here on the first line, it's a bit mixed up, so we can't really read it, okay? So I would, to be honest, get rid of this text here. And these sections here, I would revise them because look, they have this drop shadow. It's not really bringing much to this design. So I wouldn't use these drop shadows and borders. Okay, so moving on. These images, the way they are on this page, it looks like they have no structure and hierarchy in the way that you've added these onto the page. So you may want to find a way to get like a hierarchy or a structure on your website that follows throughout your website easily, okay? And this image here as well, I mentioned this on a few websites before, use high-res images on your designs, okay? It's very, very important that you do that. It just makes the page, the website look, you know, even more professional, okay? On the left here, I should say I really like the navigation here. I think this is the first one in our reviews that I've seen, which has a left navigation. I think that is great. But as I mentioned, the colors, you may want to look at the colors here and just make sure you're using the right colors for your right project. Okay. Let's go on to, okay, so I can see here that this page is using anchors. Okay. Right. The one thing that I want to comment on here is just the use of the colors. I think they're a bit too much, and the layout of the page itself, I think you need to develop a structure here on your website and just make things have a bit more hierarchy throughout your design. But I think once you fix that, it's going to be much, your page will be much, much easier because you have the content here. All you need is just great images, and also you need, you just need to use, get rid of, that text that reads from top to bottom. Yeah, I think that needs to go as well, just to keep things simple. So do a bit of research into websites in your niche and see what kind of colors they use. So with this, I would probably use maybe, some browns, maybe, some earthy colors, and just make it, and just have like complementary colors like your oranges, just to, balance the website, a bit, since you're dealing with animals. So that's what I would do, but I'll have it very, very subtle, because right now it's just the colors that you're using are just way too bright. So I would use colors that are less bright for this actual project. Okay, Miguel, thank you very much for submitting your website. Now we are on to, in fact, before I do that, let me just take a look here and see if we have any comments. Okay, flatcolorui.com is a good site for picking up color palettes. Yeah, Elevation, thank you very much for that tip. I haven't looked at that website, but that's something that I definitely want to look at, because it's very important that we have, a list of these resources that we can go to before we do our designs. Okay, so let's move on. So our next website here is by Mark. So let's review this website. Okay, so this is the website that was submitted by Mark. So first of all, this top section here, the top header area, I think that is brilliant. Okay, I really like that. I think that's really nice. Now, this pop-up that you have here, it's great for building your mailing list. No doubt about that. But can you see what is happening here? I was actually confused, because I thought this was part of the design, because the colors are very close together on that one image. So this right here, I think you need to redesign this. Have maybe this book here on the left, nice and big, and this text here on the right. So have two columns and have a bit of padding on the content around this. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So hypnosis toolbox, more info. Welcome to the Global Hypnosis Academy, the state of the art. Right. Now, do you see what is happening here? You have a value proposition here, okay, which is great, but you have a slider, which means now I have to try and work out what is happening here with the slider. Now, my rule of thumb when I design, I keep sliders to maybe products that I'm showing, okay? But if it's information that you're showing, it's quite difficult, for people to actually go through sliders to read content that way. So I would say on this main hero image, have one image and one message. And then if there's anything else that you want to explain below, you can have that slider that people can slide through, because right now it's a bit too much, to go through right on here on this hero image. So use your hero image as your hello section, where people just get to it and say, okay, what this website is about. Okay, this website is about this. Great. Now you go to the call to action. So use your hero image as that. So I would really stay away from the sliders, because if I have to read value propositions on every slider, I think that's a bit too much when someone lands onto the page. Okay, so that's what I would do here on the top. And then here, you have great images. I can see here, these are high res. Now, what I would do here is make this icon a bit smaller, maybe have that icon here on the bottom, and then have this description here on the bottom as well, okay? Because right now, these titles here and descriptions are just taking too much away from this image. Okay, so award-winning hypnosis MP3s, instant download. So just have this, on there, and let people see, most of the images. Right, and also if I try and click here, does it work? Okay, it works. Okay, we'll get to that, because for a moment I thought these were not clickable. Okay, so that's what I would do here, and what I've noticed as well is now the size of your images has changed. Again, this has now broken the actual layout, because these first 4 images here, they're the same size. That works. So it would be nice if these 2 images here were also the same size. So you've broken that. That needs to be fixed. Okay, and now moving on, I think this section here needs to be separated by maybe a color and make this text stand out a bit more. Okay, and of course give this section a bit more breathing space, because it looks like it's just a continuation of what is happening here on the top, and that makes it more, it looks, a bit more like things were just thrown onto the page. Okay, so section out these areas here. Okay, so moving on. This video here, to be honest, I would have this video on its own and just maybe give a bit of a description about the video. Okay, and then this article here, if it's very, very important, I can see there's Mel Gibson here, have this on its own section and a bit of description text on the right, because I can see that this is, quite important here. Okay, moving on. These testimonial videos, again, I would have these videos with that word keeps going. So annoying. Okay, you need to have an image here that you can add, which pretty much gives us an idea of what that is, because right now it's all covered by this play button. Okay, and maybe even just give like the name of the person just below the image, just below the video there, so that we know that these are, testimonials. Okay, so pretty much that's the review of the homepage. Now the colors, let's see the inside pages. Maybe I could start seeing the use of colors in there. Wow. Okay, now we have the problem that we had before, which is the size of the content area. Okay, so as you can see here, things are just going way too close to the edge there. It's just way too much. So I would reduce the content width and show this content in a much better way. And these icons here, if these are places where you've been or you've been featured on, I think this is great to have these on the home page. Okay, so this is the page where you want to really showcase your work. So I would actually add them here on a little section and just have them those there. That will just make your authority even stronger by just seeing those icons. Okay, so I would move these to the home page. And also, Rick here is public speaker, sales motivator, and all that. I would actually add videos here. Okay, so if you're a public speaker, that means speaking on camera is not really a problem. So why not have maybe a video talking about yourself? Talking about yourself here, I think that would work really well. So having more videos on this website would actually be much better. Okay, let's see here. And the website is quite slow as well. Yeah, so you see all these inside pages, they need to be redesigned, add some more imagery to these, and have a page which has a consistent design to it throughout these pages. Okay, let's go to the enroll now. Now, do you see how long it's taking to load up? Okay. Oh, so you have to enroll first, okay? And this takes us to the page. All right. Let's go to the graduates. Right, so all these inside pages, I think you can structure these pages in Divi. It's very straightforward. Create a width that is the same throughout your whole website. So on this toolbox here, see again, if you look at these courses, I would actually have these courses laid out in a way that is okay. So I can see here that this is the image that goes with this, but there's no image for this one here. Okay, there is an image for this one. There's an image for this one. So you can see here is a bit confusing, just taking a look at these courses, right? So I would lay out these courses in columns, maybe have 3 rows and have them that way, because right now in 2 columns, they're a bit confusing. So you can achieve this in Divi easily by just using a blurb module. Instead of using an icon, you can use an actual image for that. So that's what I would do here, because it's pretty much all over the place. And also, this image that you have here on the toolbox is an image that you use on your homepage. So I would look for other images that I could use, throughout the whole website. Okay, and finally, we're going to take a look at the contact page. And again, the width is just way too wide here. So that's something that I would go in and fix. Okay, so Mark, thank you very much for submitting your website. Hopefully you can go in and make those quick changes onto your website. It's very, very easy to do with Divi. In fact, for those of you who are just getting started with Divi, I have a free introductory course on Divi where you can pretty much, find your way around Divi, where the tools are and how you can use them. So I'll also link that in the description below. Okay, so let's move on to the last. In fact, before I do that, let me just take a look here if there's any questions. Yes, image overlay. That word keeps going. It's crazy. I need to write it down, Image overlay. Okay. Russell says site built with Elementor. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean the site I'm reviewing, or? Russell says, what are your thoughts on top level menus that are not clickable? I feel it's a missed opportunity for content and annoying that you click and nothing happens. I would agree with you. If I'm going to have a navigation on the top, I would want when someone clicks, it takes them somewhere, because that's what people are used to seeing. When they go onto websites, they're used to seeing the navigation, and when they click, it needs to take them somewhere. So that's what I would do. If I have quite a lot of information to add onto my menu area, I would rather have maybe a secondary menu. So that's how I would do it, rather than do it that way. Or if I'm going to have a mega menu, that could be maybe another way of doing that. But having these menus or these links that you can't click, for me, I don't like that, and I don't really recommend that, because it's quite confusing for people. Elevation says, have you worked with Roberto Blake? I'm going to send him a tweet today because it would be dope if you did some content together. He's a graphic designer based out of Atlanta. It's actually interesting you say that, Elevation, because I've actually spoken to Roberto Blake. He used to follow my website, my YouTube channel before he got like really, really big. And he actually made some comments about my work and he really liked it. So I have spoken to him a bit, but I know he's really, really busy. But of course, yeah, you can send him this tweet and it would be really, really cool if I could work with him. So thanks for that. If you're going to try and make that connection, I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on to the last website, and this one is submitted by Curtis. Okay, so this is the website. Now, this is again a very good example of a good value proposition. So I know this is a equipment financing leasing. Okay, I know this is equipment financing, leasing, cash out, refinancing. Now, here, it's not clear if this is one paragraph, and I'm not sure if this is just me or but I read it out as one paragraph, but I can see here that these are three different things that this website does. So this is something that I may want to that you may want to take a look at. So have just one title there, and then all equipment finance company offers equipment financing, blah blah blah. Okay, so that's fine. This paragraph is okay, and also this here is okay. So I would just have one title here, and then have the rest of this information here. Okay, that's fine. That's great. Okay, and the image here again. I know I keep going on and on and on about images. This image here is not high res, so you can see it has taken quite a lot out of this top section. It has just made the page or the website look dated. It doesn't look that attractive not because of the person in the image, but because of the image itself. It's very pixelated. So this would actually look much better if this was a high-res image which you've customized in Photoshop. Okay, and moving on here again, the use of this section divider. I don't think this is necessary. I would maybe get rid of that and use a different style. Maybe use the one with an angle or something like that. Okay. Over here, I like what you've done here with the about us and this little line. It just shows. It just makes this section, much better. I like that. And also the font size. I think the font size here is great. It's easy to read. It's easy on the eye. And then as I move forward here. This image here would be nice if this was edge to edge, because right now you have this space here over here to the right, but and also this here image that you have here, I think you could have got rid of it because we can still read this on this background. Okay, so I would get this background here off, this little background on. If you have any answered yes to any of these above, get rid of that because we can still read this. Okay. If you want this to really stand out, maybe use a different color than white for that to stand out. And over here, yeah, I think this is okay because these have titles, so we can easily read. These, so I think that's really cool. The only thing is this read more. I think you may want to have call to actions on these, but I'm not sure if this is just for just to show people. Okay, now over here, financing terms and rates. Now over here, I like the use of these images, but I'll just make them slightly darker so that we can read what is on this option here. Now I can see already that you've changed your font. Now this is a different font here compared to your body font, or unless you're using this as your title, maybe. Okay. Now, this image here definitely doesn't work because you haven't used this style of imagery on your website before. So I would get rid of that and use a like a proper image, which is not an illustration. And even though you use an illustration here, again, it's pixelated. So you want to use images that are high res. Okay, so moving on here. This image here that we have in the background, I think what you've done here in terms of the content that you have is great because there's a pattern going on here in terms of how you've added your content. There's a good title and that line there I think is great, but the image here in the background needs to be a bit dark so that it's it's a bit too bright. So I would make it a bit dark. Okay, so, and moving on here, I like this. But what you may want to do is to separate this content because there's too much information now going on this particular page. So make sure that you separate this and make it easier to find the content because there's too much content here on this single page already. And then here on this contact page, I like the way you've customized this contact form. But again, the image in the background is a bit too bright, so I would make it dark, really dark, so that all this content can really stand out. Okay, but other than that, I think that's great. Oh, in fact, here on this testimonial, again, this section here and this row is way too long. I would reduce this because this is a bit too much, because now the eye has to read all the way over here to the right and then back. But of course, I know that this is probably because I'm viewing this on a large screen. So this is something that you may want to make sure you have consistency throughout your design. Make sure you have the same content width throughout your page. Okay, so I can see here that this page uses anchors, which is okay because the anchors are going to the right places, which is good. Great. All right, so I guess that is why. So I take my comment back where I say that this page, this single page has too much content on the same page. I guess this is the reason why. It's because it has these anchors, and that's how the page was designed. So that's fine. Okay, so again, that's pretty much what I would do on this page or on this website. Just use, the same section dividers here, and your images, your images need to be high res, and also make these a bit dark so that it's easier to read. Okay, so I guess this is the last website we're reviewing today. Okay, so today's episode is made possible by DiviCake.com. Check out their huge selection of Divi themes, layouts, and plugins. The link to that is in the description below. Okay, so I'd like to say to everyone that submitted their websites, thank you very much for doing so. Now, let me just take one quick look here and see if there's any comments. Right, Elevation, you're asking for my Twitter handle. It's at Max17. Okay, you found it, sorry. Right, okay. Okay, so basically now we've come to the end of the show. So for those of you that still haven't submitted your websites for reviews, please do so. Don't be scared. I know sometimes I come across a bit harsh, but you know what? This is all coming from a good place. I want you to make your websites look awesome and professional. So this is why, I go quite in depth and give you, reviews based on even something that is very, very small, like font size. Okay, so my goal is to help you create beautiful looking websites. So I hope you don't take this too personal. And also, I'll be back on the show again on Saturday, 11 a.m. UK time or 6 a.m. Eastern. And so please do make a date in your calendar, and also send some reminders via email. So if you haven't subscribed to the mailing list, please do so. And as I mentioned, I have a free WordPress mastery course. So if you haven't taken on that, the link to that is in the description below. And if you want to take your design skills to the next level, I have a Divi course which has a 50% discount. So go ahead and sign up for that course. By signing up for that course, it's a free passport to the new course that will be coming out as soon as WordPress 5.0 comes out, because this course is going to cover pretty much a lot about the things that that are needed for you to design awesome looking websites. Like, for example, SEO, things like graphic design, how to use Divi itself, how to make your website, how to monetize your website, and all that great stuff. So this course is going to have quite a lot of things, and the title of this is going to be the Web Design Formula. Okay, so yes, Divi is the most popular, and in my opinion, it's quite easy to use. It has quite a lot of tools in there that you can use, and also if you're a beginner, there's a lot of support around Divi as well. So that's why I'm behind it. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you joining me on today's show. I will see you again on the next show on a Saturday. So please do tune in and hang out with me as I do more website reviews. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good rest of the week. Take care.